Hello students, today we are going to start the next part, that is the regulation of beating. Last day I have given the structure of the heart. Now we will see that in the heart we have some muscles, specialized type of muscle which actually help the heart to beat. Yes, cardiac muscle is already present. Cardiac muscle helps the heart to beat, to pump. But whenever it comes to the proper 72 times beating in 1 minute, that is regulated by some specialized muscle. So let's just see that one. Okay. So here, first of all, here in this right side on the upper region, okay, that is on the auricular region, we have one valve. Okay, this is one structure. What is that? This is called as the SA node. SA node is also known as the sinoatrial node. Okay, towards the right upper region, towards the auricular lining membrane, what we have the SA node that generates the beat. Now just behind that, towards the auriculoventricular septum, towards this interauricular septum region, we have another small node that is known as AV node. AV node is also actually known as the atrioventricular node. Okay, just remember SA node means sinoatrial node and AV node means atrioventricular node. Now connecting this SA node to the AV node, what we have some specialized some muscles. Okay, so that muscle will go to the AV node from the SA node. This SA node, whenever it generates the pump, whenever it generates the impulse, it goes to the AV node, and along with that, from this SA node, it will also go to the left auricular membrane or left auricular muscles. So whenever the SA node beat, how many times the SA node will beat? SA node will generate the impulse 72 times in a minute. Okay, so it will generate the impulse. SA node will generate the impulse readily. It will go to the AV node via these muscles and to the left auricle via these muscles. Okay. Then after that, what will happen? This heart will get depolarized. That means this auricular region that will get depolarized, and after that it will beat. The auricles will beat, not the ventricles. Then from the auricle, the impulse will move to it will be propagated to the ventricle. How? From this AV node, a bundle that arise. Okay. So what we can call, this is known as the bundle of His. Okay, this is called as the bundle of His. So this bundle of His, it is actually arising from the AV node, passing on the above of the interventricular septum, and after that it bifurcate. It will go to both the two walls of the ventricles. Okay, on the walls of the ventricles, right? So here it will go like this, and here it will go like this, right? What we can call this bundle, or that bundle of His, it bifurcates and go to the wall of the ventricles. This branch structure, what we can call, these are known as the Parkinson fiber. This is called as the Parkinson fiber, right? Now once again we have to know that how this beating will be created. Okay, first of all, the SA node. Okay, this SA node will generate impulse. Okay, it generate the impulse. Now from this SA node, this impulse will go to two regions. One is AV node and another is the wall of the left auricle, left side left auricle, and the wall of the left auricular wall. Okay, then after that what will happen? Both the auricles beat. Okay, and we should know that first of all the auricle will beat, and after some time the ventricle will beat. Okay, that means it takes some time, some amount of time, so that this muscle can have to propagate this impulse towards the ventricle. Now what will happen? This AV node gets this impulse, right? So from this AV node, it propagates the impulse to the bundle of his. Okay, from the bundle of his, it will go to the Parkinson fiber, and after the Parkinson fiber gets this impulse, it actually depolarizes the ventricular valve, and after that both the ventricle beat. Okay, and this way the ventricles beat and the complete beating of the heart occurs by these muscles, right? Remember that this is important also, that how this generates the impulse and how the heart will beat. See here, this SA node which is producing this impulse, that it actually generates the impulse 72 times in a minute, and along with that AV node which is actually acting as a carrier, so that it can just transmit the message of the impulse from the auricle, from this SA node to the ventricles. Okay, so here SA node which is now generating the impulse. Okay, remember it is generating impulse, and whenever it comes to the AV node, it will just transmit impulse. Okay, it is the node which transmits the impulse from whom? From the SA node to the ventricles, right? So this way the heart will beat, right? So remember that these are the muscles, this is the mechanism. Okay, this is the mechanism how this heart will generate the impulse. After that we will see the working of the heart, how the heart will work. So let's just move to the working of the heart. After that, let us see the next part, that is the working of the heart, how the heart will work, how the blood will be pumped, what is the type of blood that will be pumped in how many different blood vessels. So everything we are going to discuss here, that is the working of heart. Okay, in the same we will see working of heart also, cardiac cycle also. Okay, then after that ECG also. Okay, so let's just see what is that. First of all, the heart, already the structure I have given, the names of the blood vessels I have given. So we will see the working of the heart in three different parts. Okay, the first part we will see here, that is called as the auricular systole. Auricular systole is nothing but, remember, systole means contraction. Next one, we will see the ventricular systole. Okay, ventricular systole is also known as the contraction. That means ventricular systole or ventricular contraction. And the last one that we will see, the joint. That means both the auricles and the ventricles. Okay, joint diastole. Okay, diastole means, remember, it is the relaxation. Okay, joint diastole or joint relaxation or auriculoventricular relaxation, same. Okay, so let's just see what will happen here in all these three different parts, that how the heart will work, right? So first of all, see, this is the heart. Okay, here we will see this is the heart here, this is the heart here. In all these three different parts we will see the working. Okay, so first of all, we know this the valves are present like this, right? Then here the valves, this is known as the interauricular septum. This is the tricuspid valve, right? This is the dicuspid valve, right? Then after that, here also this is interauricular septum. then this is the ventricular valve and the ventricular septum, or what we can call auriculoventricular septum. This is the auriculoventricular septum. This have two opening, what we can call, this is known as the tricuspid valve, this is known as the bicuspid valve. Another name of bicuspid valve is the mitral valve. So first of all, see, in the auricular systole what happens? Systole means contraction. Okay, and auricles, these are the two auricles, right auricle, left auricle, and this is the ventricle. This is right ventricle, this is the left ventricle. So we will see that auricles will contract. So whenever the auricles contract, what happens? See, what we have, the blood vessels, that all the blood vessels already have collected the blood in both the two auricles. That means from this side, this is the inferior vena cava that also is taking the blood into the right auricle. From the above also, that is superior vena cava, and this is for the heart itself, that is known as the coronary artery. So it actually take the blood already in the auricle, right auricle, and in the left auricle all the pulmonary veins. Remember how many pulmonary veins are present? They are 4, 2 right and 2 left. So already the blood is present in the right auricle and the left auricle. Okay. Now whenever the SA node will generate the impulse, what will happen? Readily the auricular valve, that muscle of the auricle, that will get depolarized. Depolarized means it's get a impulse and it will pump. So whenever it pump, what will happen? This tricuspid and bicuspid valve will open. This is the eustachian valve, this is the Tibetan valve. Both these valves will be closed, right? And blood from the right auricle goes to the right ventricle, and oxygenated blood that will be moving from the left auricle to the left ventricle. Okay, so what will happen in this auricular contraction or systole? First of all, SA node generates impulse. Okay, then after that what happened? The auricular valve get depolarized. Okay, second one, this valve, auricular valve get depolarized. Depolarized means it what is depolarization and polarization we will discuss in the next after that we have a chapter that is neural control and coordination. In that chapter I will tell you what is depolarization. So it get an impulse and it will start working. Okay, that means auricular valve will contract. At that time what will happen? The blood that will move from the right auricle to the right ventricle, right? So the deoxygenated blood, I will write like this, DOB. Deoxygenated blood will move from the right auricle to the right ventricle. Isn't that by opening what? This valve. What is the valve? That is tricuspid valve. So this tricuspid valve will open, and after that the blood will move from both the two auricles to both the ventricles. Similarly, what happened? The blood will move. That here is the oxygenated blood. The bicuspid valve will open. Okay, so this bicuspid valve will open and the blood will move from the left auricle to the left ventricle. This is the right auricle, this is the right ventricle, this is left auricle, this is left ventricle. So blood from both the two auricles goes to both the two ventricles, and this way the auricular systole or contraction is completed. Okay, now after that, remember what happened in the muscle. I have told that the AV node that get the impulse will move propagated from the bundle of his to the Parkinson fibers. Now the Parkinson fibers will transmit this impulse to the whole of this ventricular valve, right? Then after that what will happen? That the ventricle will contract. Okay, now this ventricle will contract. So whenever the ventricle are contracting, what happens? That is called as the ventricular systole or ventricular contraction. Okay, so in this time what happens? See, in this time, first of all, this AV node transmit the impulse to the bundle of his. Remember, bundle of his, and from the bundle of his it goes to the Parkinson fiber. Okay, so this way the ventricular valve gets depolarized and the ventricular valve depolarizes and it will generate now the impulse and the ventricle will contract. So whenever the ventricle will contract, what will happen now? Here we have the blood vessels. Remember, this is known as the pulmonary artery. This is known as the pulmonary artery, right? And here also we have another that is known as the systemic artery. So this is the systemic artery. And remember, even in the last video, even I have told this both pulmonary artery and the systemic artery will have a valve. What is that name of the valve? That is known as a semilunar valve. This is also called as a semilunar valve. This is also called as a semilunar valve. So in this time what will happen, that whenever the ventricle will contract, then readily what happen, this tricuspid valve will close and the bicuspid valve will be closed. Okay, so remember, due to the closure of the tricuspid and bicuspid valve, okay, due to the closure of the tricuspid and the bicuspid valve, what happened? We'll hear the first heart sound. Okay, so we will hear the first heart sound, that is loud sound, due to the closure of both the tricuspid valve and the bicuspid valve. So whenever the tricuspid and the bicuspid valve will be closed and still the contraction process is going on, then what will happen? The semilunar valves that will open, right? So semilunar valve, whenever it will open, the blood already is present in the right ventricle and the left ventricle. The blood will move from the ventricles to the pulmonary artery by opening the semilunar valve, and from the left ventricle the blood will go to the systemic artery by opening the semilunar valve. So here what will happen? The blood that will move from the right ventricle by opening the semilunar valve, okay, by opening the semilunar valve, it will go to the pulmonary artery. Okay, it will go to the pulmonary artery, and if it comes to the here, this is the left ventricle. Okay, from the left ventricle by opening the same, that is semilunar valve, the blood will go to the systemic artery. Okay, so here it will go artery. Okay, so in case of this right side, it is deoxygenated blood. In case of left side, this is oxygenated blood. From the pulmonary artery, it will go to both the lungs to get oxygenated, and from the systemic artery, it will go to different tissues so that the blood can donate or give the oxygen to the tissues. It will supply the oxygen. Now after that, this ventricular systole will be completed. So what will happen here in this ventricular systole or ventricular contraction, the tricuspid and the bicuspid valves will be closed and we will hear the first heart sound. Remember, we'll hear the first heart sound. Okay, then after that what will happen, this semilunar valve will be opened, tricuspid bicuspid valves will be closed, blood from both the two ventricles will go to the arteries. One is from the right side to the pulmonary artery, from the left side to the systemic artery. From the right side, the deoxygenated blood will go to the lung so that it can get oxygenated, right? And in case of the left ventricle, from the systemic artery, it will go to the different tissues so that the tissues can get the oxygen. Okay, so this way the ventricular systole completes. Then after that, what we are going to have, the joint diastole. In joint diastole, what will happen? Now after the transmitting the impulse from the Parkinson fiber for a little amount of time, what will happen? We will relax both the two auricles and the ventricles. Okay, and already what had happened in the auricular systole, when the auricles were contracting, the ventricles were relaxing. Isn't that? Whenever the ventricles are contracting, the auricles are also relaxing, and whenever these two phases are completed, both the auricles and the ventricles that will relax, and whenever both the two auricles and the ventricles will relax, what we can call it, this will be known as a joint diastole or joint relaxation, or we can also call it as the auriculoventricular relaxation. So in this time what actually will happen, that here the volume will be increased, isn't that? Whenever contraction occurs, the volume decreases, isn't that? Now what happened, joint diastole occurs, that means volume is been increased, right? So whenever the volume is increased, what will happen, the blood that will move from the different parts of the tissues to the right atrium. From the lower side it is the inferior vena cava, from the upper side it is the superior vena cava, from this side it will be the coronary sinus. Okay, so all of them that will take the deoxygenated blood to the right atrium, and from the left side the pulmonary arteries, pulmonary veins that will take the oxygenated blood from the lung, and the blood is still filled in the left auricle. In this time what happened, both the auricle that is filled with the blood, it gives the pressure to the tricuspid and the bicuspid valve, and at one period of time tricuspid and bicuspid valve will be opened. So whenever the tricuspid valve and bicuspid valve will open, the blood from both the two auricles will rush into both the two ventricles. So the blood will start to fill in the right ventricle, that is the oxygenated blood, and from the right auricle it will be filled in the right ventricle. Okay, left ventricle. Okay, so this way it will be filled in both the two ventricles. At that period of time what will happen, already in this earlier ventricular systole what had happened, this semilunar valves will open, remember. Now what will happen, the ventricles that has started to fill with the blood, okay, in this period of time the pulmonary arteries and systemic arteries are not allowed to take the blood, isn't that? So in this period of time what happened, this two semilunar valve will be closed, okay, and due to the closure of both the semilunar valve, what happened, we will hear the second heart sound. Okay, we will hear the second heart sound. Okay, and whenever this two ventricular semilunar valve will be closed, then what will happen, we will hear the second heart sound. And what is happening in that period of time, that the blood from the lower side, that is inferior vena cava, superior vena cava and coronary sinus, that will take the deoxygenated blood to the right atrium. This will open the tricuspid valve and the blood will move to the right ventricle. From the left side, pulmonary veins will take the oxygenated blood to the left atrium, and by opening the bicuspid valve, the blood will go to the left ventricle. Okay, so this way what happens, we will complete the joint diastole. After completing the joint diastole, what will happen, we will have the auricular systole. That means already the ventricle is starting to get the blood. Now whenever this auricular contraction occurs, remaining amount of blood that is present in both the two auricles will rush to the both ventricles. So this way we have completed the working of the heart. So this way the heart will work, and we have the movement of the blood, both the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood at the same time, and that's why we have what, double circulation. Okay, double circulation, and this is a complete double circulation. Okay, so this way the joint diastole occurs. After that, let's just see what is this cardiac cycle and the ECG. In the same video, we will complete both these two. The same diagram, we'll just rub this part. Let's just see that one. Now just see, we'll move to the next part, that is cardiac cycle and ECG. What is the term ECG indicates? ECG stands for electrocardiogram. Okay, electrocardiogram, that means it is the ECG. Now we will see both this ECG and cardiac cycle together. So before coming to the cardiac cycle, let's just see in 1 minute how many times the heart will beat. 72 times. Our heart beats 72 times in 1 minute. If the heart need to beat only once, how many seconds will be required? Okay, that will indicate a cycle, and that cycle is called as the cardiac cycle. Okay, for one beating of the heart, that indicates the cardiac cycle. Okay, so for the cardiac cycle, how many seconds will be required? Okay, that is the thing. So we need to know, see, first of all, what is the time? Okay, so first of all, cardiac cycle, the time required for the cardiac cycle. Okay, so you have to divide 60 by 72. Okay, then after that, our that time required for the cardiac cycle we will get. Okay, so first of all, see, if the heart beats 72 times, the heart beats 72 times, the heart beats in 60 seconds. Okay, if the heart need to beat only one time, then it require how many seconds? Isn't that it will be 60 by 72. Okay, and what is the time? This is 0.8 second. Okay, if the heart need to beat only once, that will require 0.8 second, and that 0.8 second the heart completes a complete beating. Okay, so it is the time required for the heart to complete one beat. Okay, that is called as the cardiac cycle. And already we know that the cardiac cycle also, this is the same working of the heart. So that's why the cardiac cycle is divided into three parts for the day: auricular systole, ventricular systole, and joint diastole. Isn't that? So what is happening in the auricular systole? Once again we will see what is happening in this auricular systole. This tricuspid bicuspid valve will open. Blood from both the two auricles will go to both the two ventricles. In the ventricular diastole, what happened? Okay, in the ventricular diastole, what happens? That the blood, wait. In the ventricular diastole, what happened? Both the ventricles will contract. So this will close this to tricuspid and bicuspid valve. Then after that, semilunar valve will open. The blood from both the two ventricles will go to the pulmonary and systemic artery. And in that last part, joint diastole, what happened? The blood that is moving from all the sides, that means from the right side, this is deoxygenated blood, from the left side this is oxygenated blood, that will be filled in the auricles. It will open the tricuspid bicuspid valve, the blood will be moving towards the ventricles. Okay, so this is the cardiac cycle. So in this auricular systole, whenever the heart first auricles will beat, okay, how many seconds will be required from the 0.1 second? See, one complete cycle means it is indicating auricular systole, ventricular systole, and joint diastole. Together, all these three phases will indicate one cycle. 0.8 seconds will be required for all these three. Right, so that's why here the auricular systole, auricular contraction will require 0.1 second. Remember, 0.1 second will be required by the heart to complete the auricular systole. Next one, to complete the ventricular systole, 0.3 second will be required, and for the joint diastole, the heart will require 0.4 second. Okay, so 0.4 second will be required. So just count it, add it, 0.4, 0.3, 0.1, 0.8 second will be required to complete the whole beating. Okay, or the heart to beat once, it will require 0.8 second. To complete its one cycle, it is 0.8 second. 0.1 second will be required for the auricular systole. 0.3 second will be required for the ventricular systole, and the joint diastole will require 0.4 second. Now, what is this cardiac cycle? So, we will represent a cycle here, isn't that? So, let us see, this is suppose a cycle. This is the whole 0.8 second. So, this will be 0.4 second, half. Then from this, if you divide this way, this will be 4 half, 0.2. Then from this 4, we'll take 0.1 second, completely half. So 0.1 second, this is 1, 1, 1. So 0.3 second, this is 0.4 second, isn't it? It's the cycle, so it will require 0.8 second. The 0.1 second will be required for the auricular systole, 0.3 second will be required for the ventricular systole, and 0.4 second will be required for the joint diastole. Okay, or auricular ventricular diastole or relaxation, same. So this is the cardiac cycle. Remember what happens in the cardiac cycle already I have mentioned in the walking of the heart. Now we will see the ECG. ECG means it is the electrocardiogram. Whenever the heart movement or the pumping or the beating is monitored by a machine, that machine is called as the electrocardiograph, a graphical representation comes, and that graphical representation actually is just like having some elevations, depressions. So every movies you have already watched how actually it look like. So we will see actually in this auricular systole, ventricular systole and joint diastole what that ECG actually means, or how does ECG work, isn't that? So first of all, in this ECG also, how many waves we have? In this auricular systole we have the first wave. Okay, what is that wave called? This is called as the P wave. Okay, next one, this is the ventricular systole. This is the QRS complex, and the last one, this is the T wave. Okay, so this auricular systole will have the P wave. P wave indicates the auricular systole. QRS complex will indicate the ventricular systole, and the T wave will indicate the joint diastole, or complete the beating will occur within this three wave. P, QRS and the T. So it will be like this, P, QRS, T. Okay, P indicates auricular systole, QRS indicates the ventricular systole, and T indicates the joint diastole. Okay, so this is all about the ECG. So remember the walking of the heart, the ECG and the cardiac cycle. I have completed all these three. If you understand only one of it, you have no problem understanding the cardiac cycle or the ECG. It's the same. Just remember the walking of the heart, you are done. So this is all about the walking of the heart. The muscles we have discussed, the cardiac cycle we have discussed, and ECG we have discussed. So that's all about the walking of the heart. I hope you remember, you understand. Thank you.